Howdy there, assassins. It's been a while since I've done one of these videos. Things got a little busy with all the new Assassin's Creed Mirage details, so I didn't get to make this video as soon as I may have liked, but we're finally here. How far can I make it into Assassin's Creed Unity without being spotted? Obviously, last time we did Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which ended quite tragically. I had thought I got some kind of bug where Evie, for whatever reason, didn't throw the throwing knife, but a lot of you in the comments pointed out that I likely just accidentally canceled the animation by going for an assassination, and looking back, yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense, so my bad there. And unfortunately, that video ended a lot sooner than a lot of you may have liked, so who knows, maybe in the future we'll do a part 2 for Syndicate if you guys would like to see that. But in the meantime, AC Unity. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know how I feel about Unity, in which I love it. I was very excited and a bit scared to do this video for this game, because while stealth is really fun, it can at times be challenging and inconsistent. However, the prologue is significantly longer than Syndicate's. Plus, in Syndicate, you start as already established assassins, so that game kind of just throws you right into the thick of it, while with Unity, you get a little bit more story and an introductory phase, so I'd say it was actually a bit easier to do this video for. There are still a few chase sequences and forced combat encounters, of course, but there's still plenty of stealth opportunity, and I'd say I did better than I was expecting myself to. But without further ado, let's get into this stealth adventure in Assassin's Creed Unity. So, like most of these things, we start with a little teaser trailer from Abstergo, you know, the massive evil corporation run by the Templars that exploits people's memories to make playable experiences that support their own Templar propaganda that Ubisoft base off of themselves. In all seriousness though, these three look very interesting. I wonder if they were ever planned as future titles, or if it's just some random settings the team at Montreal came up with to tease us. Anyways, we start way back in 1307 at the presumed destruction of the Templar Order. I actually really would have loved a game set in this time period. But anyway, this poor guy gets stabbed in the neck, and the game forces me to play as Jacques de Molay's right-hand man. However, instead of allowing me to slaughter the French soldiers and save his life, he orders me to go retrieve a book and sword. He also just out of the blue mentions that assassins are here and looking for these items as well. Who knows how long this man has been a Templar and served Jacques de Molay, and he's just now hearing the assassins are still alive and kicking, and it must take a brief intermission to appreciate how beautiful this game is. About to be a decade-old game next year, mind you. It feels like a legal requirement at this point to bring up how well AC Unity's graphics hold up whenever I talk about it. Anyways, sorry for the little side tangent. I make my way up into the tower just to discover one of those dumb assassins in some really badass looking robes has stolen the book thing the old man told me to get. You know, forget which side is right. The assassins look cooler, so I'd much rather be one of them. I chase down the cool looking thief who's got this really nice like red and black version of Altair's robes. I actually have it on my main save. You get it for solving all those riddles. But this is where we come across our first forced combat encounter of this adventure. There's no stealth in this opening section, which makes sense, especially since we're playing as a Templar. Anyways, in typical cowardly Templar fashion, I use the magic space sword to obliterate the assassin and go to hide the book and sword. Immediately upon leaving though, I'm killed by another cool looking assassin, and then we jump to 6 years later, where we see the infamous burning of Jacques de Molay. You know, I've actually been to the exact spot he was burned in real life. They have a little sign for it and everything. This whole prologue doesn't really have much significance for the plot, but it was a major event that involves the Templars and France. Plus, this is Assassin's Creed. They've always got to take whatever advantage they can to show a popular event, even if it carries no real relevance with the actual game itself. We're then introduced to Bishop, who's like, hey, so Ubisoft, I mean Abstergo, has brainwashed you into playing their Templar propaganda games, so like come fight for us and be a hero hero, blah blah blah. It's strange that our initiate just agrees to this, with no real evidence that this woman is even speaking the truth, but whatever, we need to get on with the game. The modern day is still probably one of the more underdeveloped parts of Unity as a whole. We then cut to December 1776, where at this point in time in the world, Connor is in the midst of the Revolutionary War, fighting the good fight. And we're at Versailles, another place I've been to in real life. I remember when I was here, I went to the exact spot that Shay killed Charles and was so excited about it. Yeah, I'm weird, okay? Versailles, along with Charles and Arno, are looking much better than they did in Rogue. Charles tells Arno to wait for him, where Arno replies in his British accent. Never mind the fact that the kid has a British accent when he's supposed to be French, but on top of that, he also loses that accent when he grows older. Maybe he was like me as a kid and just liked speaking in a British accent for fun.
Yes, Father.
Yes, Father. I live in France, but I have a British accent.
But Arno disobeys his father's commands and decides to chase after some random red-headed girl who he basically ends up chasing around for, oh, I don't know, the next 15 years or so. She calls my dad an old prune. Rude, and then has the audacity to say I'm too slow. This bruised my ego heavily, so I activated my super speed and ran so fast that I bugged the game out and missed the cutscene. One Alt F4 later, and we were back on track. The rude girl dares me to steal an apple. This child is a menace, but whatever, I've never been one to back down from a challenge, so I steal the apple, which, believe it or not, is where I come across my first stealth encounter of the game. Knowing the amount of shame and embarrassment that I would be berated by in the comments if I got spotted here, I tried my absolute hardest to remain undetected. I very easily slipped away and went into a hiding spot where I lost the guard. However, he decided to play it unfair and began puppy guarding the door to where Elise was. So the only way to get him to move was to let him see me and use my last known position to draw him away from the door, so I can easily run past undetected. And as I'm going through the absolute turmoil of hiding from this guard after stealing an apple, Shay and my father are having a very pleasant conversation in worse graphics.
I make my own law. Connor and his assassin.
Hey, what's going on over there? Also, I have to say, AC Unity clearly breaks the canon of the story here. If this game was accurate, this is what Arno would be seeing right now.
I'm Arno.
I make my
I'm
own
here
law.
with my father. So am I. He has important business.
The guards seem to be onto us for stealing the apple, so like a man, I decide to fess up to my crime, but as punishment, the guards killed my father. There's a lesson to be had here. Don't steal apples, kids. But thanks to Shay making his own luck, Arno is now left an orphan. But on the bright side, at least the soundtrack is amazing. We then cut to 13 years later with an adult Arno who's in the midst of stealing back his father's pocket watch from these thick-headed blacksmiths. I take back the pocket watch and then escape the brothers and the guards, where one of them decides to shoot me. Seems a little extreme, but then again, the guards in Paris are ruthless. I mean, they killed my dad over a stolen apple, for crying out loud. I seem to be in big trouble for stealing the pocket watch until the White Knight de la Serre comes through and sorts everything out. However, due to the severe trauma of seeing his father die as a child, Arno has started to go a bit mentally insane, where he starts having a conversation with a painting, believing it to actually be Elise, which all could have been avoided if Achilles had just listened to Shay. This is all your fault, Achilles. My dirtbag boss then tells me to go brush the horses because he's too lazy to do it himself, and as Arno's adoptive dad takes off, this very irresponsible delivery man leaves a very important life-saving letter in the hands of Arno, a complete stranger who's completely unaware of just how important it is. Like, hindsight 2020 here, maybe don't send someone who eats Burger King for 6 meals a day to deliver a life-saving letter to the Templar Grand Master. I don't know, just a thought, Lafreniere. I'm then tasked with delivering the letter instead, as I do my best race to catch up to the carriage, parkouring across rooftops and sprinting through streets, just to accidentally stumble upon the carriage of a very nice man who I'm sure has no sort of malicious intent whatsoever. In all seriousness though, I do like some of the details and hints of foreshadowing you can pick up on with Unity after replaying it several times. It's clever. My next objective is to reach a viewpoint where I had to be slightly careful, as the guards will actually be able to spot you if you climb up the tower in front of them. So I just simply utilized my eagle vision to pinpoint their locations and went around them to make it up the tower safely. I'm okay with being spotted in a normal circumstance, but I refuse to let this video end to another stupid mistake, so I decided it was better to play it safe than sorry in situations like this. My next stealth encounter presented itself to be rather challenging though. It focuses on the utilization of social stealth, where I must use the crowd to blend in and sneak past the guards. There were lots of guards in this particularly small area, and there were little pockets of space where I couldn't blend in. So I once again decided to play things smart, take it slow, be aware of the guards' routes, use my eagle vision to make sure the coast is clear, and when the time was right, move to the next crowd of people to blend in. It surprisingly didn't end up being that difficult, and when the guard at the entrance moved, I made a run for it. Simple. Once I was inside, it was rather easy, just crowd blend all the way to the objective. Arno happens to see Mirabeau and De La Serre agree to a truce between the assassins and Templars, which is actually very wholesome to see. This is the only time we've ever actually seen a truce between these two sides. Can you imagine a story where the assassins and Templars come together to fight a common enemy? That would be really interesting. But the wholesome moment is quickly cut short as I'm ambushed by those idiotic brothers from earlier, where once again I'm put into a forced combat encounter. I absolutely destroy them, not getting hit once, and realistically with the amount of times I slashed them with the sword, they should be in pieces, but oh well. I then once again have to escape the guards, where I eventually do so. My dirtbag boss tells me that Elise, my adoptive dad, are at a private soiree and that I wasn't invited. So Arno decides to slip that very important letter under the door. Again, I don't really blame him as much as I blame the absolute fool of a messenger that Lafreniere sent. He must work for Party City. Some of you know what I mean by that. Arno then decides to steal his adoptive dad's suit and break into the ball. This was my biggest challenge in stealth yet. There's a massive area to cover, but luckily there are plenty of guests to blend in with to avoid detection from the guards. I slowly made my way over to the entry point on the second floor when I had a bit of a close call with one of the guards. He came fairly close to spotting me, but thankfully this game's detection is not completely broken, and I'm able to lose him within the crowd like a true assassin. Pretty impressive stuff from Arno, considering he's not even an assassin yet and has had no formal training. Once the coast was clear, I climbed up to the conveniently opened second-story window and made my way inside the palace, where once again there were a few stealth sections to get past. Now this section isn't particularly hard, but it does rely a lot on using the cover system, which can be very janky to say the least. It didn't prove too much of a problem though, as I relied on my eagle vision and waited for the right timing to sneak past the guards. I could technically knock them out if I wanted to, but that's completely unnecessary and likely to cause more trouble in this scenario. I made it past the first couple rooms, no problem. However, things got a little intense here. You see, I got a little impatient here and thought I was clear to sneak past this guard. However, with some of the worst timing in the world, he turned around as I was sneaking across the room. I really don't know how he didn't spot me. I got extremely lucky, but he was following my last known position, so I had to get into the next room as quickly as possible, or he was going to walk right up to me. And in my haste, I ran right in front of this guard, who somehow didn't spot me either. Thankfully, the guard behind me didn't walk into the room, otherwise I would have been screwed, but this was by far the closest I had been to getting spotted thus far in my playthrough. The game was trying to get get me to swap cover spots, but it was being so finicky that I just decided to wait for the guard to move and then just sneak right past him. I wasn't going to risk all the progress I had made so far on this cover system. It would be really great if Unity had Syndicate's cover system instead, but oh well. There are still some little tricks you can do to make it work better, but as I made my way to the ballroom and used my eagle vision, I noticed that it marks all of the Templars and your future targets in gold. Again, I thought that was a neat detail and a nice bit of foreshadowing to include. But get this, Lafreniere is standing right here. He was the one who sent the letter to warn De La Serre, so if he was here, why didn't he go to De La Serre to check that he received his letter, or put a guard on him to protect him at least? I take it back, it wasn't the irresponsible messenger's fault, it was this loser. These Templars were lucky I didn't have my hidden blades yet. As I entered the ballroom, this woman offered to dance, where he rejects her in favor of his adoptive sister. Yeah, saying it like that suddenly makes the Arno and Elise romance a lot weirder. I never really thought about it that way. But Arno doesn't seem to mind, as he once again chases Elise with that playful apple theme. She out of nowhere ambushes me. She's lucky I didn't accidentally kill her off instinct. Arno kisses his adoptive sister. Yup, still weird when you think about it like that. And then she kicks us out. Like, do you have any idea how much stealth I had to do to get here, woman? Whatever. I have to do some more sneaking, luckily nothing too difficult. Again, just sticking to cover and moving once the timing is right. We're able to successfully sneak back out of the palace, only to find our adoptive dad has been murdered. They killed my original dad for stealing an apple, and now a replacement one for sneaking into a ball. These people are ruthless. Arno, unaware of the situation, is caught lurking over De La Serre's body, and because these guards are terrible at their jobs, I mean seriously, this guy was killed right behind them and they had absolutely no idea, they match their incompetence with more incompetence and believe Arno is the murderer and that no further investigation needs to be done. We're thrown into a cell in the Bastille where we meet everyone's favorite Western American accent Frenchman, Pierre Bellic. He calls me pisspot, which really feels like an insult, but I suppose it's more of a term of endearment, as he called my father the same thing. Why not Pisspot Jr. then?
Where'd you come by this, pisspot?
I mean, seriously, this guy belongs in Red Dead Redemption and was misplaced in AC Unity. But I'm Pisspot. Bellic steals Pisspot's watch, and Pisspot doesn't like that very much, so the two end up fighting. Another forced combat section where I absolutely destroy this old fool. Like, really? This guy is supposed to be an assassin training me, and he couldn't even hit me once? So I spend the next 2 months training him, where we take advantage of the chaos from the riots outside and try to escape together. We knocked out the guards and ran for the nearest exit. I had to defend him while he got the door open with another forced combat encounter. I easily dealt with the prison guards. It was quite simple, especially with smoke bombs. Who knows where Pisspot managed to get those in the Bastille. We do some very stylish parkour to try and escape, as civilians are being mowed down by muskets right below us, and someone below decides to shoot me. Because yeah, you're getting charged at by an angry mob with weapons, and you decide to shoot the guy above you trying to escape the prison he's being wrongfully held in. The justice system at work once again. This gunshot put me on death's door too, so I'm then after very easily killed by one of the guards and have to restart. This time, I don't get shot on the way up, and I avenge my past self rather easily. We climbed up to the top of the Bastille, where an innocent guard begged for his life, but you know what? Both of my fathers were innocent too! So I choked him out. Bellic tells me to jump off the Bastille, and that the impossible is the purview of every assassin, which I understand, and it sounds cool, but like, gravity? Well, don't try this at home, kids. But this leads to one of the coldest title card sequences ever. Assassin's Creed knows how to do a good title card, you gotta give it that. But anyways, at this point, we're around an hour in, and the world has now opened up for me. At this point, I was feeling pretty good. I had already made it farther than I did in the Syndicate video, so it was a win in my books. Next, we go to visit Elise, who blames Arno, or rather, partially blames Arno for our father's death. Yep, still pretty weird when you think about it, and shows that the letter Arno was meant to deliver was to warn de la Serre of the impending threat. But again, if you want to blame someone else, why don't you blame Lafreniere? I mean, he was literally there. I saw him. He could have easily warned de la Serre himself, or at the very least, check to make sure he received the letter, maybe assign security to him. Don't shoot the messenger, but whatever. Arno is left broken, which makes him a perfect fit for the assassins, because we're all just incredibly broken people who take out our sorrows by donning hoods and stabbing people with magical blades. You know, there was genuinely a long period of time where I wanted the assassins to be real so I could join them. I mean, what am I saying? They are real, and I am one, but you can't know that. Anyways, I headed over to the Sainte-Chapelle to seek out the Brotherhood. Again, I've actually been here in real life, and before you ask, yes, I did try and look for the hidden trap door that leads to the Creed's headquarters, but the tour guide wouldn't let me. He was definitely a Templar. When I arrive, everyone is ominously waiting for me in the dark. And by the way, can I say, whoever the assassin's architect is an absolute artist. I mean, look at this place. It must have taken years, especially back then. What were the assassins doing while this was all under construction? We need to ask the important questions here, people. The council spits off some fancy, cool sounding words and phrases that doesn't really make a ton of sense when you really think about it, but it's cool, so doesn't matter. They make Arno take a drink from this mysterious chalice. That cannot be sanitary, and who knows what's in this thing? This is the first and only time we've ever seen this kind of induction ritual for the assassins. Arno goes on a wild trip. We get to see all the events of his life in paintings. I wonder if there's actually any hidden Easter eggs in these. Like, they show his birth, so it would have been neat if there was a painting of his death as well, since we never see that. Arno races to try and save his father and de la Serre, which he just can't do. I think my theory that Shay didn't exist yet as a character when Unity was being written makes a lot of sense. He's never shown or mentioned, which he doesn't need to be necessarily, but considering Rogue didn't even start development until Unity was officially announced, makes me believe that originally we were never meant to know the true killer of Charles Dorian. But then the team from Rogue created Shay and thought of a way to tie that into Unity. That's my theory, because for the character it makes sense why Arno didn't look for his father's killer, but I do feel like if they knew Shay was a character when writing this story, then he may have actually had a role in it, or at the very least what I've been mentioned. Because even the way Charles is killed here is not the same way Shay actually killed him. Imagine if they did know though, you could have had Arno actually see Shay pass by him or something. Oh well, let's get back on topic. Arno assassinates the killer just to discover that it's himself, because he feels guilty for the death of both of his fathers. And when he wakes up, the council is ominously standing before him. They recite the tenets, which are always great to hear, and we are officially inducted as an assassin. A fairly long intro period, but necessary in my opinion. Ubisoft, I mean Abstergo, then shows us another trailer for their newest project, where Bishop is like, yeah, so Abstergo captured Roberts from Black Flag, and we need you to play as Arno to find the sage he met with, blah blah blah. And just like that, we're flung back into the open world, donning the robes of an assassin. I have to say, I do really like Arno's signature assassin robes, even if it's not overly complex. But now that I looked the part, we could finally get into some real assassin stealth missions. My first one requires me to take out 3 targets and disable an alarm bell. Pretty simple, but my strategy was even simpler. Abuse the smoke bombs. Smoke bombs are absolutely overpowered in Unity, and they were going to make stealth in general so much easier. I started off with only 5, but I could just refill in the shop, so I was not holding back. The smoke bombs also just served as good insurance to not being spotted. Why take the risk of exposing myself, even if it's a very minimal risk, when I can just use a smoke bomb and eliminate that risk entirely? So that's exactly what I did. I used a smoke bomb on the first target, it, except as I did so, my game had a huge stutter and almost got me detected. Yeah, the game was trying its hardest to sabotage this video. I proceeded to use a smoke bomb on the second guard as he went to investigate, and since the third guard was just out of the radius of my smoke, I decided to use another smoke bomb to take him out as well. Is it overkill? Absolutely, but after what happened in my Syndicate video, I'm leaving nothing to chance. One of the men responsible for De La Serre's murder exposes himself, where we have an easy chance to kill him, but ultimately don't because according to all Western French accent over here, there are too many unpredictable variables. The game then tells me, hey, did you know you can use smoke bombs? Thanks, game. But thankfully, because of some looting I did earlier, I have another 4 smoke bombs. The game makes me use one to escape, and then another to take out the 2 guards in front of us. Now this part was going to be extremely tricky. Bellic decides to just run right past tons of enemies, and it's very easy to get spotted on this part. In fact, that almost happens immediately, as there's a large group of Templars nearby, but I use my own smoke bomb to get away undetected. However, I noticed the detection meter was turning orange for one of the enemies, meaning I was likely to be spotted, so I had to use my last remaining smoke bomb to conceal my escape, which means I now had none left. Bellic once again just runs right past some more Templars who begin to detect me as well. Oh, this part was so stressful. At this point, I was just running and praying they wouldn't detect me in time. Thankfully, we made it to the cutscene and were then in the clear as we parkoured our way back to base. I made it a top priority to replenish my smoke bombs once we did so. We report back to the council where Mirabeau charges me with my first solo assassination mission. I'm to go to Notre Dame and assassinate Sivert, which, might I add, is one of my favorite assassination missions in the entire series. Not only because the Notre Dame Cathedral is so well designed and detailed in this game, but also the freedom the black box style mission structure allows for, with multiple different ways to assassinate Sivert. Now, I had a lot of options, and ultimately it came down to whether or not I wanted to be quick and efficient, or go for something a little more extravagant and flashy. Normally, I'd choose the latter, but this is a stealth video, so I decided it would be best to take the path of least resistance and get in and out as soon as possible in a way that had little risk of being spotted. For me, that was to steal the keys and enter through the little side window where I could assassinate Sivert from above. So that's what I did. I assassinated the key holder in the street, climbed up to that window and opened it. All I had to do was kill the guard up top, climb above Sivert, throw a smoke bomb down, and boom, just like that, he was dead. I took a quick glance at his memories, and I may be in the minority here, but I actually like the choice of seeing targets' memories, as opposed to the typical memory corridor confessional from the other games. This just feels a little more mysterious and interesting to me, actually seeing the victim's memories instead of just cradling them and interrogating them before they die. I wouldn't be opposed to them bringing back this way of doing it someday, but then again, the memory corridors are iconic and a huge part of the established lore, so I doubt it. Either way though, the assassination was done. I immediately dropped another smoke bomb just to be certain I wasn't seen by anyone as I made my escape. I took a lift back up to the top, went out the window I came in, and escaped the area, completing the mission in only a couple of minutes. Let me tell you, this gave me ultimate satisfaction. When you can complete an assassination without being spotted, and that quickly and cleanly, there's just no feeling like it. But my fun was soon after quickly interrupted by Bishop, per usual, who made me jump through a portal into late 19th century France, which looks beautiful. You know, an AC game in this time period of France would be cool too. Anyways, I quickly make my way through this mission. It just requires some parkour, nothing in the way of stealth, and before we know it, I'm back in the real world. Or I guess fake world? The real fake world though? Anyways, I report my mission to the council, where they tell me that the fun gets to continue. My next target is the King of of Beggars. And to help with this mission, I received the Phantom Blade, one of my personal favorite weapons of the entire series. I do hope they bring it back someday in a future title. I didn't have any fast travel points yet, so I had to run and parkour my way over to the mission, where after a bit of investigating, I found the King of Beggars' right-hand man, the rat himself, Latouche, which ironically enough means the key in French, as he's indeed the key to finding the King of Beggars. I'm sure whoever came up with that name thought they were real clever, huh? However, Marquis de Sade suggests that I take a more cautious approach and follow Latouche back to Le Verreau. Ah, see what I did there? You're not the only one with fancy wordplay, Unity writers. So, I spent the next few minutes tailing Latouche, trying to avoid anyone I can, and only assassinating enemies when necessary. Again, this is a stealth run, so I want to minimize risk as much as I can. I continue to abuse the power of the smoke bombs. When I finally follow Latouche back to his little hideout, I do almost get spotted as I try to climb up to a higher vantage point by some enemies from below, but I'm able to make it away in time to trigger a cutscene. Latouche's spider sense is tingling and feels like there's some sort of trouble, and the game does me so dirty here. Immediately upon getting out of the cutscene, there's a rooftop guard that I didn't notice directly to my right. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is it. The adventure is over. Now, this is my fault, of course, for not thinking there was a guard up here with me, but in my defense, I had just gotten out of a cutscene and had no reason to suspect someone was just there and would begin detecting me almost immediately. Not to mention the fact that I couldn't even see he was there previously since I entered the cutscene. So, the game kind of blindsided me, but hey, it is what it is. Overall, I'm satisfied with my progress. I made it so much farther than the Syndicate video. In total, I made it about 2 hours and 15 minutes into the game without being spotted, which, believe it or not, is actually the second highest time of any of the games I've done these videos for thus far. Again, pretty surprising considering Unity is such a stealth-focused game, but I suppose there wasn't a massive amount of stealth opportunity in the opening hour. Regardless though, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, let me know if you want to see me do this for Rogue next. As always, if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you left a like and considered subscribing to the channel if you're new, and other than that, thanks for watching, and stay stealthy out there, assassins.